guys. Thanks so much for taking a minute with us. Appreciate you.
Of course, man. No worries. Thanks for having us.
Congratulations on your brand new album, which is a masterpiece.
We love it.
Let's not waste time on that, because honestly, you guys don't seem like you'd be really impressed with us bragging on you for the next 10 minutes. But I think the reason that a lot of the songs on your new album resonate so deeply is because it's the kind of stuff that a lot of people feel but just don't know how to say. And then I'd just be curious from an artist perspective if you think it's easier to sing or write about that stuff than it is to just talk about it out loud, because it's just so intimate and deep.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, probably for me, it is easier to put in songs than it is to talk about. Although over the years, I've gotten more and more open about things like that. There's a lot of anxieties and things like that that are kind of, interwoven in the songs. And so it does feel like you're putting yourself out there a little bit. But we've also found that the way we relate to people mostly is in the feelings, is in those emotional things. It's like that is the language I think that does translate for us anyway. And so I think that we kind of poured into that a little bit. I think we talk a lot about how our songs are these redemption stories, whether it's personal or spiritual or, and we rarely get to the end of the story in our songs. It's most the tough part. And I think that's something that I think we've been able to articulate and also kind of press into.
You ever just be like listening to one of their songs, you'd be like, that feels like something I should say, but I didn't think about it until they sung it that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Normally I listen to their songs and I cry and I'm like, I should have said that. I should be saying things like this.
I appreciate that.
When you guys are writing songs like that are so just out there. So we could equate it this way, right? So we're creative for a living, right? And like creatives tend to be super vulnerable and like, oh man, I have this idea for this thing, but it's probably stinks. It's probably terrible. But when it's so deep, do you ever just like write a song, you're just like, this will never see the light of day? Or do you know like this is good? What's that feeling you feel when you get the idea? Yeah,
it's interesting. It most of the time it is insecure. I think there's a level for me. I think most of the good songs that have lasted, I'll take to the band and be like kind of tentatively, saying, what do you think about this? Is this too far? And there's sometimes that like it does go too far. It's like you don't want to verbally vomit on songs. I think there's an element to that, same way in relationships. So I think I trust them in a lot of ways to kind of sort of be the banks to my river, Josh.
Ooh. Oh, wow. I love that you just did that. I see what you did there. Who am I to be loved by? Who am I to be loved by you, Bear?
They could do this all day. So you guys you're releasing this amazing new album in a pandemic, which is so weird. No one could have anticipated that. And I know that part of the fun of releasing a new album, like you guys talked about, is getting to see people's reaction to it when you perform it live. And that's missing for this. So you guys got kind of creative and did this concert experience that people can have even though they're not with you. Has that kind of satisfied that desire to perform your music for live people, even though you're not like physically doing it over and over?
Yeah, I don't know if it's satisfied us completely, but it definitely is a good start. I think for us, when we finished the album, I think we finished the album like March 15th or something. And we all kind of hugged and said, all right, we'll see you. We're going home. And we had no idea we were going home, like, be in lockdown, like we're going home. So for us, it was just, to get in a room again and play our instruments and see family. I mean, we've been with our family, but, I think I see, Bear and Seth more than I see my wife and kids sometimes. So like, it was good for us to get in a room again to play. But it was super weird to not be able to, see people, singing back the songs, or, you see, groups of friends that are hanging out together that, they're spending their Friday night with us. And it's just the biggest deal to them to get to see Need to Breathe with their friend. Like that that experience that we get from the stage to look out, you know, is we're just really lucky to get to have that. So to not have that right now is really, you know, it's you know, it's crazy, but yeah, it was definitely a good start. Hopefully we can get in front of people real soon.
Yeah, we hope so too.
Hey, Bear, congratulations on your new baby. That's just a couple weeks old, right?
Yes. Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Just when you think you run out of inspiration, it's like, oh, there it is. That's a whole new album in of itself right there. I have 2 little girls. Joy just had her first baby.
Just had a boy.
What's it like trying to be creative while you're also trying to take care of your pregnant wife? Did she ever interrupt you like, hey, enough with this genius music business. Get in here, rub my feet ASAP.
She absolutely does. But she's also, I think she's really ready for me to leave. So this is the first time in a long time I've been home this long for her. So she's like, look, first of all, you're going to pull your own weight around here. This is not the tour bus. So I'm not your tour manager. And secondly, you need to get away from me for a few hours every day. So that's kind of been my window to write songs.
That's so true. You guys, your families are used to not having you around this much. And as much as it's like wonderful, I'm sure this is like such an interesting time for you guys to be like, we're here all the time. What has it been like being with your families 24/7?
Yeah, it's been, I mean, it has been a blessing in some ways. You know, our kids are all really young, so to be with them right now is just really special. And while they still kind of like us, they're not, you know, older and hate being around us, so they still want to hang out with us. But yeah, it has definitely been a challenge of getting used to, you know, waking up early every day. You know, we'll play shows and our shows will, you know, end at 11:30, sometimes, you know, midnight. We're actually going to bed at 2 a.m. and then we feel like it's okay to sleep till 10 o'clock, you know, because that's just our routine. That does not fly when you're at home.
Sure.
If I sleep till 10 o'clock, that's just not going to happen. So we're up earlier, and, you know, I think, you know, I'm not going to speak for Bear, but I think Bear has been able to work early in the day. He's kind of shifted his whole life in that way, which has been good. And all of us are just trying to figure out how to make the most of this crazy situation.
You say a creative person can make something out of anything. Are you finding that, like, being stuck inside in this weird season, that it's opening up a certain part of your brain that maybe was asleep before? I'd like to hear both of you answer that and think like, oh, we could make some music out of this, or being stuck inside or anything like that.
Yeah, for me, it's been the most creative time, like prolific time I've ever had in my life. I think I wrote 60 songs over the summer. So,
whoa.
And I think there's an element to it for me, as good as I can figure out, was that the world is kind of going through the same thing at the same time, I think. And there's a feeling as a writer that you're supposed to speak to those things, maybe not have an answer for it, but more speak about the emotion that is there. That's been really cool to me, to have that sort of purpose when I get in there and write. Whereas it's always been more of a personal story, I think. You know, with our band, it's easier to kind of write, but you're not going through a totally different motion every single day, you know, whereas this is kind of like, man, we're really taking on learning new facts and seeing the sort of the divisiveness in our world. And we're all trying to sort that out on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You guys, for a band, I would think, okay, so when a band takes a break, like when you stop doing shows or you stop writing or anything, you all kind of go and you be with your families. I would equate it to being like on summer vacation, and the first week back at school, it's kind of weird. You're kind of getting used to the nuances of your friends that you haven't seen in a little while. Does it take you a hot minute before you guys can just jump right back in and be creative and collaborate? Or is it this thing where you've been doing it for so long, it's just sort of like riding a bike at this point?
Yeah, I think it's probably more like, I was going to say, it's probably more like riding a bike.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I think we've been around, you know, the band's been around a long time. I've been around the least amount of time, and I'm coming up on a decade next year. So,
wow.
I think at this point we just, and we, even when we all went home, you know, we didn't stop, you know, so like Bear's been writing songs and sending them around. So we've probably communicated, and honestly, whether it's Zoom or or just like small get-togethers. We've seen each other more in this season probably than we would as we're on tour. We just we have been working the whole time, and to kind of go back to what you were asking about the creative thing, I went through this kind of the opposite of what Bear went through in some ways. The first part of quarantine and lockdown, I was an anxious mess. And so like the creative thing was just, I wanted nothing to do with it. And so, but I actually found a lot of medicine in listening to music, whether it was, just records that were coming out that I was digging, or just songs that Bear was sending. It really kind of helped me get through that. So like as an artist, I can see how the value of what the band does, but also as a consumer, as a listener, as just a lover of music, I can feel that as well. So now I'm kind of coming out of that funk, I feel like, which is good.
Yeah.
But it is interesting how just music really is just such a powerful tool that we have, and you kind of take it for granted for sure.
Yeah, it really is. And I have to say, it's been awesome as someone who consumes your music that we get to consume it during this crazy season. And who am I? So many people are resonating with it. I listened to it the whole time. Right after I had my baby, I was like, I need this song, because you need to be reminded of like that kind of consistent love. And I'd love to hear you talk about where that song came from. Like what had you write these beautiful lyrics about, like growing roses on your barren soul? Like it's so lyrically beautiful.
Thanks. Honestly, it came from real anxiety for me. I think, the older I've gotten, the more I feel like that's the struggle of my life, is feeling worthy of love. And, I mean that, from God, I mean that from my wife and my kids. It's a constant struggle for me to believe that. I can tell my kids I love them and I'll love them forever, no matter what they do. And they're like, okay, that's cool. They can buy it, Whereas like if somebody tells me that, I'm like, I don't know, So I think it comes from that, but then I think it's just so beautiful. It's such a good reminder to me of the fact that God loves us. I mean, it's kind of insane, really, especially despite our performance. And I can look back, over the years, and I've really royally messed it up. And I feel like God loved me even more in those scenarios. And it's kind of amazing.
You guys have been making music for so long, and you have so many fans. Do you ever look back at some of your old music and you're like, when that came out, this is the greatest ever, and now you listen to it and you're like, guys, that was so busted. I can't believe we thought that was so good back then. Do you ever do that? Does a song ever come on the radio and you're like, oh, that's not a good look at all?
All the time for me. Yeah. It's funny. Like you can't help but do this, but like music, if you enjoy making music, every time you write a new song, you're like, this could be the one that changes the world for us. This could be the biggest thing we've ever done. And obviously it rarely is. But then when you look back and, I hear the way you recorded certain things, or, especially early records, it definitely, it's hard for me to listen to be honest.
What about you, Josh? Same thing?
Yeah, well, I have an interesting kind of perspective on it, because I wasn't around for those first couple of records, but I knew of the band. But now when I listen to them, I have it's almost like a nostalgia thing for me, as like I remember hearing, I don't know, like Washed by the Water, and being like, man, who are these guys? But it's different, because Bear sounds like a totally different person. I think he like came into his own, like probably Outsiders. He kind of like started really singing. I don't know what he was doing the first couple of records, but
you needed Josh. Josh had the secret sauce. He had
to bring it out.
Josh came in, everything got good.
I wasn't gonna say that, but I'll accept it.
Hey, really quick though, something that just came to me. When you go in, you guys in particular, most of your songs are just like a feeling, like it's like an emotion that you resonate. When you go in and you record one of those things, do you have to kind of get pumped up like an actor and almost try to go to that place,
that emotion,
before you record it? Is that how that works? Or are you, I really don't know. Or as a professional musician, are you just like blessed with the ability to like say, when it's time to go there, I can just go there? How does that work?
I think it's good. I think, the way we recorded this record was very like, it felt like a family in some ways. We're in this kind of weird rundown studio in a lot of ways, that was really big, and everybody's in there at one time. We kept the band in all at the same time, 2 producers and an engineer. So it was very family. We sit down for dinner and then we would go back and cut the vocal. And so I think that helped. You kind of felt like sort of like the NBA bubble or something. It was like, we're in this, you know what I mean? Like we're all in this together. And I kind of lost where I was. I lost the days. I lost the, so I think we're always trying to do that. We're always trying to get back to sort of the garage band days where we can really just give ourselves to the music in that way. And it does for me. There's certain windows in the day where it's easier to do that. And so that's why we save the vocals. Most of the time the vocals are cut late at night and you know, yeah. So I wouldn't say it's easy to just snap into it when you first get there in the morning, but you spend a day working on that one vibe and the attitude, and you talk a lot about the feelings together, and it kind of drums it up.
I always wondered about that. I didn't know if like right before you record Who Am I, if Josh is like in your face, like, man, what's wrong with you, man? Just trying to get you to go
You're
to that.
so not lovable.
I cannot believe.
I will say that we did have a you're probably going to say the same thing. We did have a producer a couple records ago that he was his first time working with a band, didn't know that the band's been around a little while, and he wanted Bear to take a trophy into the vocal booth and look at it and imagine that he was singing to 10,000 fans at Red Rocks and really give it to the, you know, just go there. And Bear's just kind of like, bro, I'm not going to do that.
It's not happening. Not.
Yeah, that's a little too much.
Your voice, Bear, honestly, my husband and I were listening to the album last night, and there's a couple of notes in some of these songs, and we just go, how's he going to do that when he gets to do it live night after night? Does your voice ever suffer from some of these deeply emotional, like you just like get every single time, I feel like you give it everything you've got. That's got to take a toll.
It does. I'm like opposite of most people. Maybe when I'm out on the road, it gets stronger and stronger, which is kind of great. But it's been really tricky with this because we haven't been playing as much. So I do all these, you know, I have a vocal coach and all that stuff, trying to keep at it, but it's just so boring to practice vocals when you're not singing to anyone. So I, you know, honestly, I do better when we're out on the road than this. It's going to be hard when we're doing these kind of one-offs. So like that live stream was kind of crazy. Yeah. You know, singing a whole record, you know, hour and a half of music, just from scratch, is pretty difficult on it, but we'll see. Well, we've been doing it for a long time. I feel like I still got it.
I know you guys got to go in a second. One final question, that just came to me for Bear. When you're growing up and you're becoming a musician and you know you want to sing and you have what I would call sort of a non-typical like vocal range, it's just not like, it doesn't sound like anything else. Mm-hmm. Do you ever encounter, I feel like certain creatives or people that aspire to sing and make music could relate to this. Do you ever encounter someone who, or insecurity because you're like, this is not the way a proper singer is supposed to sing? Or is there a certain influence? It's like, no, you have something special and you need to bottle that. Have you ever like been through something like that before? Yeah,
I've had both sides of that. I mean, honestly, the first person, there was this old Christian band called David and the Giants. It's been a long time, like the 80s. And he came and did a thing at our church or something. I was leading worship. I was probably 17 or 16 maybe. And he was like, you have a cool voice. You have something special. And I did not know that. And no one around me knew it at the time.
Right.
And when I go back and listen to that, I'm like, man, that wasn't very good. But he's heard something in a tone or whatever. So he encouraged me in that way, which is awesome. At the same time, in college, I took voice lessons, you know, and I could never do it right for them.
Well, that's frustrating. This is such a minor parallel, but I have a little girl and she you know, she's singing. I say, well, hey, you know, let's take some singing lessons at school, and she tries, and it's just all very much by the book. But you know, not everybody's gonna sing the same way, and I think you're a great example of that.
Sometimes greatness is not by the book. Yeah.
Bear wrote the book.
Oh boy, here we go.
They really miss each other.
Oh gosh, you guys. They're either gonna cut you off or we can say goodbye. So we'll say, yeah, we've gone over. Hey, thanks. This was fun.
Grateful
Thank
for
you guys.
your time.
Hope to see you on the road soon.
For sure. Thank y'all.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.